Dear Earthmates, we are visiting Kenya, Maximillia Muninzwa. She's a poet, novelist, a pen activist in favor of freedom of expression and human rights in general. And thanks to our mutual friend, Herman Rojas, who is a poet from Chile. He is also the new international chair of the Writers for Peace Committee of PEN. And we both, Maximilia and I, are on the advisory board, and that's how we know each other. And thank you so much, dear Dada. In Kiswahili, it means sister, as I learned from you. Thank you so much for accepting this interview.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
It's an honor for me as well, and for the other Earthmates as well. As you know, I think Kenya is very important because the earliest humans, according to science, they evolved in the area which is basically now Kenya. That's why I enjoy saying that the headquarters of the United Nations should not be in the United States; it should be in Kenya. What do you think of
that? Would be great. That would really be great. It will elevate Africa to a very enviable level. So I hope that the UN will take your words seriously. Actually, we have UNEP here, we have UN offices here. They have such a big piece of land, so it will not be like they're beginning from scratch.
Oh, very good. I didn't know that. So we could maybe start a campaign. Why not? Let the idea spread, and who knows?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
How did your love for literature begin?
That's an interesting question. I think I just loved writing from the moment I knew how to read, from the moment I was able to marry consonants with alphabets, in basic school. And I would just write anything, whether it made sense or not. Yeah, that was my first love. I did all sorts of writing. And I was good in what I wrote. Whether it made sense or not, it was interesting to read. And I've kept on writing. Yeah.
Sorry, did your family encourage you, your teachers?
Yes, my teachers did, my parents did. I've been widowed for 25 years, but when my husband was alive, he actually encouraged me to write. My kids, right, have been my cheerleaders all along. And if I do not write, they will ask if I'm sick.
Oh.
So, yeah, I write. One of my sons would actually make me write something every day and read it to him. He was bedridden for many years because he had cancer. But he made me write something every day and read it to him. And he would never go to bed until he has listened to what I'd written that day. Yeah, so
wonderful.
My families are not cheerleaders.
Wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. And you're also a grandma.
Oh, yes, I am. I'm Bibi. Yes, I'm a grandmother. And I spend a good portion of my time when my grandchildren are around, telling them stories, reading to them, and listening to their stories too.
Wonderful. And yes, listening is, vital. We defend freedom of expression, but if nobody listens, what is freedom of expression for?
Yeah, true, very true.
Kenya, what would you, I mean, when did Kenya become independent and then a republic? Sorry.
December 12th, 1963, Kenya actually got her independence from the grips of the British government. And a year later, exactly a year later, in 1964, it became a republic. Yeah.
Very good. And a secular republic, right? With a lot of
secular republic, yes. Even though Christians form a greater majority of the citizens, it's very clear Kenya is a secular republic. But we have, freedom of expression. Sometimes that is not very respected, but there is also freedom of worship. And there are many religions that really, besides the mainstream religions that have come up, Christianity is the largest, yes, but there are also other smaller sects that have come up, like ministries. In some parts of Nairobi, after every 100 meters, there is a church. So that's how freedom of worship is respected in this country.
Mm-hmm. And how about African religions? I mean,
oh yes, we have that too. Yes. We call them African religions. Yeah, we have that too, and there is an organization that has been set up to bring the various the different religions of African descent together.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
because it is not one African religion. There are various, and they now have a coordinating body.
Mm. I love this book series published by Oxford University Press, a very short introduction series. There are more than 600 books now, introductions. One of them is African religions, and it's very interesting. I haven't read it yet, honestly, but it's on my list.
Oh, you should read it. You should read it. One of the great writers and promoters of African religions or African spirituality died recently. His name was Professor Laurenti Magesa. He worked in Kenya. He was my teacher at one time. He worked in Kenya for several years, but he was a visiting professor in many universities in the US, and he has written quite extensively about African religions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe
I should send you some of his books.
On as PDF, if possible, or if you give me the names, the titles of the books,
yes.
And his name, of course. Yes. Personally, I'm open to listening all kinds of thoughts, all religions, and I'm after wisdom. I'm trying to learn from the wisdom in each different religion and also wisdom outside religions. I consider myself a naturalist, and I'm eager to learn the rich. For example, I have also worked on the Bible, and I have been working and trying to understand what I can get from the wisdom of Yeshua in his original name, or Jesus. And I see the cross behind you. And but for me, nature is infinite, and this universe is one of the products we don't know about others. That's why I'm eager also. That's my point of view. Anyway, How about pen?
Yes, and I also believe that religion is simply a conduit, really. It shouldn't divide us, it shouldn't define us.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
Mm.
How about pen? The World Association of Writers. We have celebrated our 100th anniversary
Yes.
recently. And how did your interest in pen uh, begin?
Oh, this began many years back. I think I was in my 20s. I'm on the sixth floor at the moment. And my father used to buy newspapers and I would read the newspapers. I got interested. Um, and when I started working, I continued buying newspapers and I loved buying newspapers and reading them. So one time I read about pen and I wanted to join Pen International, but I didn't know how to join Pen International. We didn't have we didn't have um, Google the privilege of having we didn't have the privilege of Google, so the directories were very limited. But I really wanted to be. I had read Ngugi wa Thiong'o, I had read other African writers, Chinua Achebe, and I wanted to be like them. And at that time, I learned that Ngugi wa Thiong'o was actually a pen member. But it began and ended there at that time because I didn't know who to ask and where to go. But the fire that had been lit in me kept on until years later, I heard that there was a functional pen center in Kenya. And I didn't have to think twice. I joined. And I'm currently the chair of the women, I'm currently the acting chair of the Women Peace, the PEN Women Writers Committee. And I'm also the chair of the Writers for Peace Committee. Kenya's PEN center is not as vibrant presently as it should be, but I'm positive. I'm optimistic, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to move from where we are to the next level of vibrancy.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes. With pen activists like yourself, I'm sure you'll achieve this. And how about your Kenya's relations with Ethiopia, Somali, your neighbors?
As a country,
Yes, in general, yes.
yeah, I should say that we have a good relationship, but on and off, we have this war that has been going on between Somali or the Al-Shabaabs in Somali and Kenya. So generally, there's a good relationship between the countries, but the relationship between Kenya and Somali isn't quite good because the Al-Shabaabs keep threatening to invade Kenya. And sometimes they have even invaded the country and caused quite a great harm.
Oh,
Yeah,
know that.
sad.
Uh,
Uh, uh, uh, our president has recently sent a team to the Democratic Republic of Congo to keep peace. We also had a peacekeeping team in Somali. Perhaps that's how the bad blood began. And there are many Somalis in Kenya. There are many Ethiopians in Kenya. Actually, Kenya is open to people, not just from around Africa, but also from, other parts of the world.
yes,
Yeah.
and Kenya is one of the first countries I'd love to visit because one of the reasons, apart from the species, I had my genetic DNA test, and my mother's side, as I've mentioned before, goes way back
Mm-hmm.
in deep time in Kenya.
Oh,
Kenya,
oh,
and my
great.
father's side back Cameroon. So just like all humans are Africans originally, and I'm happy about this. And
We'll be delighted. We'll be delighted to receive our brother. Welcome. Welcome. And when you come and stay with us.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
really be delighted to host you.
Thank you so much, Dada. Well, how is arts in general, theater, for example, or cinema? What would you like to say about them in Kenya?
Well, publication of books is picking up at the moment, and there are many people who have chosen the direction of self-publishing because it's difficult to get published by mainstream publishers. So many people, especially both young and old, are presently self-publishing. I belong to one such vibrant group. So that is as far as, and they're writing interesting books. Art, we have actors, we have musicians, we have comedians, you name it. So the area of art is doing pretty well in the country. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Sorry. How about literature outside Africa? Who are some of your favorite writers or poets from outside Africa when you think?
I love all poetry. I love all books. So I read everything that I get. I cannot classify them as being my favorites. So any book that I get, I will read. Any poem that comes my way, I will read. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I just read. Yeah, I do not classify them as into my best and my worst.
I see. How about Shakespeare? I remember that in an African country, when Othello was performed, the part of Othello was acted by a white actor. Very interesting because the normality of black, I found that very good. Is Shakespeare on stage sometimes in K? And by the way, your picture is fine, but a little bit from below. Could we see you? Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm using my phone.
Yes. This is
I'm holding it.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. How about Shakespeare? I'm interested. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it is greatly read. You were talking about an act that had happened in Kenya, about some drama that had happened in Kenya or in Africa.
In Africa, yes. The play Othello. You know, in Othello, Iago is black character, a black person, and but in Africa, when all the actors, actresses are black, they chose a white actor for the part of Iago, and I found that wonderful. And just came to my mind.
Yeah, because we are all brothers and sisters. The
Yes.
issue of color really, for me, shouldn't matter. I don't see that as an issue. Yeah.
Yes.
I really don't see that as an issue. It's wonderful having a white man take an African's role. And in any case, in schools, when we act white, when we act in schools and the plays, for example, if we were doing Othello in school in Kenya, I was lucky that the time I went to school, we were mixed. We had some Asians, some whites, and a few Africans. But today we have schools that are purely African. So where would you get a white person to take?
Not necessary, of course.
To take, yeah.
No,
I don't think that color should actually be a division, especially in arts.
Yes. No, what I mean is usually
democratic people in the world.
Yes, you're right. What else would you like to mention about your life, about Kenya, Africa? And by the way, a question is, some parts of Africa, francophone, is that the word? And some English, these two languages are, and of course in the North Arabic. How about the relationships? How about Pan-Africa? Not Pan, but Pan-Africa.
We also have Portuguese. We also have Portuguese, for example, in Mozambique.
Angola.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Yes, okay. Angola and Mozambique. Yes,
Mozambique too. Yes. And how about the other?
So on the continent, a few years ago, we had a regional body. We call it Pan. It hasn't picked up in the manner that we thought it would. It's still in the ICU, but we're hoping that, our regional leaders, the chairmen or the presidents of the various centers, will see the need of supporting this Pan, because when I met the South Americans in Uppsala recently during our Congress, I was actually impressed by their unity, by their solidarity. They've been able to do a lot because they're united. And I am hoping that Africa will get to that to that level. We have countries in Latin America to learn from, especially Latin America. That's there who those are the centers that really captivated me.
I see.
Yeah.
And of course, Spanish being the largest, and then Portuguese, that's practical. That's very helpful, sharing this almost the same language almost everywhere except Brazil. That must have been, of course, very helpful in a way. How about environmental issues in Kenya? Are there environmental problems?
Well, the vibe is the same as we hear the world over. People are called to plant trees. People are called to take care of the ecosphere, and I don't think we should be reminded. It should be our responsibility, because we call on the world, and we have a responsibility to take care of this world. So there is a lot of tree growing. There are some areas at the moment where there is drought, animals are dying, but we also have some areas at the moment where there's a lot of food. So, and that food can be shared to among the people who do not have. I personally am a member of Mother Earth Network, and that is an environmental outfit. I was on the board for some time. I'm presently just an ordinary member, and it's okay. When I was still teaching, because I'm a teacher, I initiated a small environmental group in our school because I was teaching basic, in prep school, and I called it Plant Your Age. And I encouraged children to plant little trees or little plants wherever they were. If they were 5 years, could they try and plant, 5 items? And it worked pretty well. I was hoping that I would be able to make this a national thing, but I think I'm caught up in doing many other things, but it's not too late yet. I still want to make that a reality, encourage children to join the Plant Your Age movement.
Yes, wonderful.
And we have many. We have many people who are actually activists in the environment area, in the area of in the environment area, and they're doing pretty well. Yeah.
I see. Very good. And of course, you're also a member of our Earth Civilization Network.
Oh,
and,
yes,
which is
yes.
a roundtable of, ideally, a roundtable of roundtables and improving the global synergy for world peace and better society, world society. And you have been contributing a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I try not so much, though.
I didn't hear the last sentence, sorry. Hello? The picture is frozen.
Are you muted?
No, now.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Would you kindly...
Now I can hear you.
Yes, I hear you now. Would you kindly repeat the last sentence or so? I mean, I thank you for your contributions to our network.
Yes, and I said, well, I'm not contributing as much as you're saying. You're bloating my ego.
Yes, and how about women's rights? Yesterday we talked about what I said, female genital mutilation. Is that the term? That's okay.
Yes, that's the term. Female.
Yes, in Africa especially.
Female genital mutilation.
Right. Yeah, 200 million women in the world. 200 million women in the world have
the issue of female genital mutilation in Africa. I personally think is taken out of context. People are coming from outside of our environment and pushing us without understanding, foremost, what female genital mutilation is. Because for many people, or for many communities, thankfully not mine, FGM is actually female circumcision. That's what they call it, female circumcision. It's a rite of passage. And if it's a rite of passage, it means that it is such an important milestone in the life of girls, because then the girl is transiting from being a girl to being a woman. Now, if that is understood in that manner, then the best thing would be to sit down with the people and listen to them, and then listen to them, understand them, and then try and give them an alternative instead of fighting them. As it is, this culture is simply being fought, and people are seeing it as being fought by the West. or the people who are or the Africans who are championing it from the continent are actually getting support from the West. And therefore, it's still going on. I know of a doctor a medical doctor. I know of a nurse, a senior medical nurse, who have had to take their children and have them, their girl children, and had them circumcised. And these are people who are educated. You know, the medical doctor was even a professor at the university. Why are they doing that? They are doing that because they are hitting back. They are hitting back at the West. They are hitting back at the donors who are supporting this. And so I think instead of having to push, pull, fight, demonize, the best thing would be to sit down and listen. There's nothing as good as a listening ear. And when you listen, then you're able to actually tell the people in about the consequences or the effects of female circumcision, and then together agree on what would be an alternative rite of passage. In some parts of this country, that is already happening. So we have alternative rites of passage, and it has been accepted. But generally, people are speaking against it during the day, but at night they are actually enforcing it. And I think it's because of the way that FGM is being fought. And my other, concern is we have FGM in France and nobody seems to talk about it. So we are only focused on what is happening in Africa, or rather Africa south of Sahara. We have women being circumcised in the northern part of Africa, but we do not seem to hear much said about them. So I think it is the approach that needs to be changed. I do not subscribe to women being mutilated or suffering or any form of suffering. But if the approach is not right, there'll always be some resistance. And that is what is happening at the moment.
Thank you very much, dear Maximillia. Very wise approach. This should be widespread. In the United States, as many as 500,000 girls are facing this danger at present. Statistically, that's a big number. It's a global problem. And mentality is not easy to change. People are so used to what they were taught in childhood that it's difficult to look from another angle. But thanks to activists like yourself, more people can be willing to revise their position, and which is vital. And
yeah, it's difficult, but it's possible.
Yes,
I believe
for me. Difficult, but
yeah.
possible.
Yes.
And
so let's have conversations around these issues. You see, if we had conversations around these issues, it wouldn't be as difficult as it is at the moment.
I see. What would you like to suggest to young Earthmates all around the world? Yes.
We are lucky that we have the responsibility of taking care of this beautiful, world. And we shouldn't take that for granted. We should also be aware that we do not live in isolation. We need to learn to accept everybody as they are, regardless of their color, regardless of their gender, regardless of their creed. And the important tenets that would make this happen foremost is love without conditions. And we need to learn to respect other people. When we talk about rights and freedoms, we know that, yeah, I have rights, yes, but my rights should not override another person's rights. And that calls for respect for the other person as well. So if young people learn this at an early age, I think they will make this world much better than it is at the moment. Because we who are older seem to be fighting for this when it should actually just have come naturally. So it's our duty to pass this on to the young generation. But again, I am grateful to my parents, because I'm saying this not because I have learned it later in life. I am saying this because this is how I was brought up. I was brought up to learn to respect. I was brought up to learn not to discriminate. I was brought up to learn to say sorry when I have hurt anybody, and to seek forgiveness and healing. And that's what I'm passing on to young people. If we did that, the world would be a different place, and a wonderful place at that. And then we'll be able to live with nature.
Yes.
You know, we'll be able to live with nature. I have difficulties in even having to kill an ant. And this has been me right from childhood. I know I have to clean up, but every time I clean up when there are ants, I really have to say, I am sorry, it is necessary that I'm doing this, but please forgive me. I have difficulties in getting worms from my garden. I have a little kitchen garden. And many times when slugs come into my house, I have to scoop them and take them back outside instead of sprinkling salt onto them. So that is how sensitive I am. I know that we need to live in harmony, not just with other human beings, but with all beings.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much, dear Maximillia Muninzwa. We are together.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Tarık.
We are
Thank you.
together. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.